All right, there we go. We're live. Not live, but we're recording. Thanks for coming on. This is episode 4, full 4 episodes. I don't know if I really have to introduce you. Most people know exactly who you are in our whole niche. But thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, man. I don't mind at all.
I have a whole long list of questions kind of bouncing all over the place. I have a couple questions from some friends as well. But I wanted to check in on how's your arm doing first.
Oh man, my arm's doing great actually. The first 7 days sucked because I was in a cast, so I had to get my bicep reattached to my forearm. I elected to do the surgery because when doing some research on recovering from it, with a full thickness tear, you lose about 30% in flexion strength and about 60 to 70% in pronation, supination strength. So I was like, got to get this done, you know. But yeah, so I got it done. Was in a cast for 7 days. Got out the cast. I didn't follow their recovery protocol. I decided to go with something else. There's this tendon researcher. I think he's a researcher named Keith Barr that I bumped into, and I started following some of his isometric loading protocols, which are supported by quite a bit of evidence. So started doing that, and man, I'm doing great. I can already dead hang. I can do all kinds of stuff, and I'm about 7 weeks out now. So
Nice. That's really good to hear because I had the same injury, unfortunately, and yeah, it was a bitch. It took a while to get everything back in order, right? And the Canadian healthcare system a little bit slower, maybe cheaper but slower. The
yeah,
nice thing is obviously with a rush being an emergency surgery, I could get it done in time. But it seems like you got in real quick, which I'm sure helped too. Eh?
yeah, man, it kind of sucked, but yeah, I was able to get pretty quickly, and I was actually lucky. My physical therapist knows a surgeon who does this specific surgery rather well, and he just said, "Hey, I'll connect you right away." I got in the office the next day. The guy kind of rushed me through. He's like, "I had a cancellation on Monday. Come in on Monday. We'll get it done." And I was like, "Great." So it was just a little bit of serendipity, you know.
Yeah, nice. When do you think you'll be back to grappling? Because I know you probably have the itch already. Have you tried one-handed yet?
I haven't grappled since the morning I hurt myself doing it, which was May 9th.
Yeah.
I'm dying. Like, this is horrible for me. Grappling is my first love, and I must do it or I die.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it sucked. But they gave me January. But what I'm gonna do is starting at the end of this month, once the CGI camp is over, I'm gonna start grappling with some of the smaller men and ladies just to sort
Yeah.
of see where it's at with my ability to squeeze.
Right.
I'll probably start with some pinning positioning and stuff like that, getting used to posting on the floor again, getting used to squeezing and holding again. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Nice. Cool. So CJI, lots of cool stuff, cool opportunities on your doorstep now, right? How is the prep for that gone? Obviously now you have a full team. Have they come together? What's that looking like?
Unfortunately, the coming together part never materialized because of different issues. I don't know how much I'm actually allowed to discuss. I actually didn't. I don't know what my NDA allows me to say and not say. But either way, uh, unfortunately, my goal was to get everyone in the room and train together, which I was not able to do. Luckily, 2 of my guys are on the team, Gavin D, so their prep is going great. We have Elijah Dorsey here twice a week, which is nice. We get to work with him a bit. Um, and then I have Taylor Pierman coming tomorrow. He's going to be here for the last 4 weeks, so that'll be nice. At least we'll have him in the room. I'll get to learn who he is and kind of see him as an athlete and train him up a little bit. I mean, he's a strong guy who's already done a bunch of competing and stuff. So it'll be really interesting to have him. And then Pat Downey will be a no-show until the day of the tournament. So
Okay. It's nice that you were able to fit 2 of your athletes in there. Like when I saw you did that, I was super excited. Hopefully in the future, if they continue doing the quintet format, maybe you can actually have a team of your own. I
yeah, we
know,
will. Oh, sorry, good.
sorry. I know one of the things that you've been doing over the last year, maybe 2 years, is you've been putting call outs, looking for athletes to come to you, right? Because obviously your room is of a certain size. It's hard to even get a full quintet team with the range of sizes, right?
For
Do you
sure.
find that's changed a little bit with the spotlight from CGI a little bit and just you becoming more popular?
Not so much. I mean, we get a ton of visitors. People will come visit for a week at a time, a few weeks at a time, which is
Yeah.
wonderful. But the area we live in is not very attractive for people to move here because it's expensive. I mean, we live in a county called Montgomery County, which is in Rockville, Maryland, which is right outside of DC. So our county is actually rather wealthy. So of course, the prices are all high here. So trying to stay, and we're not even in a great area. I mean, we're in a safe area and whatever, but it's not high. It shouldn't be high price, but it is. So trying to get here to get people to move here, and once they see what it costs to be here, it's like, oh my god. So that's been a problem for us, honestly. So
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a big ask. Just getting up and moving to a gym is hard enough to convince people of, and then all of a sudden the cost of living
yeah.
skyrockets. It's like, oh,
Yeah, like I've thought about a bunch of different ways I might want to approach this because the goal is to be a destination, to have people come join the team. I mean, that's the best way to start building a team. Everyone talks about this like ground up shit, like building from the ground up. Nobody does it because it's almost impossible. I mean, you literally are. It's the luck of the draw. Whoever walks into your gym or sees you online is who you get to work with. But if you can get a hold of people that are motivated, you can get a bunch of them in the same room at the same time for the right reason. You can do magic, and we're you know we'd like to do a little bit more of that.
yeah. Because one of the criticisms of CLA and even of you when it first started hitting the scene was like, who have you built up from the ground up? But it's amusing when you look at every other team. It's like, okay, yeah, but how many people have just traveled to John Danner of all belt levels
Sure, sure.
to all of these big gyms? And just like that's not really how reality works. But people just get it in their mind, like, no, you have to build all your athletes up from white belt.
Yeah. I mean, we're not working with critical thinkers here, people who are trained to think and understand the complexity of any given environment. They just love to say things that sound good. And, people might not like my personality. Maybe I'm direct. Maybe they don't like my face. Maybe they don't like my nails. So they have to find some reason to diminish anything that me or anyone like me is doing. And it's typical. It's how things work. Yeah, it's so funny. So my first student was Alex Nguyen, right? Literally, she was my first student ever. She was 13 years old. Her dad brought her into my gym, signed her up. My very first credit card I've ever charged. She started wrestling and doing judo when she was 9. She moved from Georgia to Virginia during that period, so she was about 10, around 11 years or 10 or 11 years old, and she started training with Ryan Hall in 50-50. She was actually one of the first kids in their program, so she trained at about 6 different gyms in a 2-year period before she met her way to me. So she was all over the place. But anyway, she had about 2-3 years experience before she met me. She meets me, 12, 13 years old. I coach her all the way up until now. And during the time when she was my student, the whole time, she won worlds like 5 times at every level. She was scored on for years. She won everything she entered. And when I would bring her up, as oh yeah, I have very, it's only an N of 1, but no one will take her as evidence of anything. And that's like, all right, well, that's fine. Uh, and then generally, a lot of my students do well in competition and have historically. But again, nobody wants to hear that either. So, what can you do?
Well, I mean, that's the big thing too. Is like you might have someone come into your gym and they've trained for a long time, but they maybe had mediocre results, right? And some
Yeah,
people might just write that student off. They're like, oh, that's just what they're capable of. But like time and
sure,
time again, you put them in the right environment with the right coach, they skyrocket,
sure.
right? Like explain that.
I mean, we see this in other sports too. You know what I mean? We see where, one guy leaves a team and goes to another, or they go from like one level of schooling to another, and all of a sudden they become better at what they're doing because they're exposed to better rooms, better coaches, better recovery, better methodologies, whatever. And we see this all the time. And this is how sports actually works. It's very rare for an athlete of any type in any sport to start with one coach and stay with one coach because the demands of what a learner needs change as they get better, as they get older, trying to find other people that are like them. And so, again, it would be impossible for a single coach to fulfill all those needs for all stages of development. So it's kind of silly to even think that.
I think it's probably part of just traditionally how martial arts are with the loyalty thing, right? It's like you got to stick with the one gym and that's it. And again, the reality is just not really the case, right? Like,
For sure.
yeah,
I mean, the traditionalism in jiu-jitsu is impressive. Like how hard people stick to things, and I've tried to cut it out across the board. Like we don't bow, we don't line up. There are no pictures of people we bow to in the room. We don't talk about the ancients that came before us unless it's relevant to the conversation. It's just, show up on time, don't hurt women, don't hurt children, respect each other, and we should be good to go.
yeah, yeah. I I vibe with that a lot. I think that's why when you hit the scene right away, because I just like, man, I kind of get this guy because I came up with the skateboard culture when I was younger and it's kind of anti-authority, but the hierarchies have always just been weird to me in martial arts.
For
You know,
sure.
so like that was the first thing when I opened my gym too is we got rid of a lot of that stuff. My people, it's to the point where my people know that, so they'll fuck with me when a new guy comes in. They'll be like, "Oh, you're sensei." I'm like, "Stop, bro."
Yeah, yeah. They do the same thing with me. They'll come in like, doctor, sensei, master Souders. They just mess with me too, so because they know I hate it. And
Yeah.
I'd like to think that my resistance to authority is because I'm a reasonable person, but the truth is I've always had this problem. Like, um, my mom kept all my report cards when I was a child. So you have like the performance section, you have the behavioral section, and the behavioral section, legit. I got to post these so people can see it. Is the same across the board, right? It's Greg does not play well with others. Greg does not respect authority. Greg does not follow directions. And so I think mine's more of a compulsion from bad genetics or something versus some reasonable attack at the authorities around me.
You release some instructional, right?
Yes, sir.
And just to give people context, because there was a clip that went viral of you shit talking instructionals, right? But you're doing them quite a bit differently than how they're traditionally done, right?
Right.
So I
Yep.
guess maybe in your words, can you frame how your instructionals are different than what you might get on BJJ Fanatics?
Sure. In its most simple sense, they're pragmatic. You could turn it on right away, watch for 5 minutes, and you could take what you see and you could bring it right into training. That's really the goal here. The goal isn't to give a bunch of knowledge about, like a bunch of facts about jiu-jitsu. It's to try to emerge the historical facts that we know about the way grappling emerges and how the tactics emerge, and then creating training protocols around them to try to either develop the same skills or similar skills. And so this is my attempt at trying to bridge a gap, basically. I want to take our traditional sense of, again, things we know historically and merge them with appropriate practice conditions. While at the same time understanding that no practice conditions, whether it be the ones initiated by the coach or the one present in the room, are going to be the same for everybody. And so, again, I try to center what is shown around things that everyone sort of must do, but leave enough room for anything a coach can come up with to effectively change an athlete's behavior.
I think one of the most interesting comments that I've seen, this is from more people who are interested in CLA already, who bought your instructions and looked at them, is they found a lot of value in just you watching the athletes, right? And then commenting on what you're seeing and on what you're going to do next.
Sure. I mean, I think that's the coach's job ultimately. So I think a coach has a few jobs to do, and of course, one of them is to know their sport well. So I think understanding your sport historically, not just how it's played, what the rules are, like why they are the way they are, but historically, what does grappling look like? How has it changed? What have the metas been? Why have the metas been that way? What movements are popular? What are people copying and doing? So again, that's one piece of it. But the other piece is the understand to have an understanding of human behavior and how it's affected by the things people do, because that's what we're doing as coaches. We're designing an environment for people to engage with that will hopefully change their behavior in a positive direction as it relates to performance outcomes.
Since you've released your instructional, have you found maybe the tone has shifted a little bit in terms of like people who reach out to you with questions? Do you find they're a little bit more understanding of what's going on now, or is it not really changed?
Not so much, man. And this is the kind of thing that has like shocked me quite a bit. It's how much of the misunderstanding has persisted. Like, and because this could be my fault. I'm in no way a trained educator, so this has really been a journey for me too, to learn how to speak more clearly, to learn how to be less emotional, less inflammatory, to address the questions as they're asked and try to give a clear and concise response. So it's been tough for me too, and I think because of my personality, I have been a polarizing figure, and I think this has caused maybe a little bit of run around or whatever. But also the people, the supporters are causing confusion too. The supporters are already coming out with their own views and their own takes and their own shit. And as I'm watching these guys, and I'm like, you don't understand what this is, man. But they're getting all these cheers, and I think there's just so much information going around that people are actually missing the bigger point. So I don't think my instructionals have helped alleviate that response or that feeling.
Right. It's hard though. Like, again, you can't really control that, right? Like you kind of release it. You do your best to give people, a good educated view on it, but what they do with it, like it's gonna run wild. I mean,
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are bonding to the emotional aspects of what this might mean. I was thinking about this the other day. Anytime we get something, a novelty in the world in some system, let's say it be weightlifting or education or whatever, sometimes these new ideas are like all encompassing. Like they'll be so complex that there are many ways to look at it, and it is draws a certain type of person, or a bunch of types of people. But one type of person that it draws is like the what I call the woo woo people, the people that need enough space to sell their bullshit. And I think CLA unfortunately is one of those spaces, because the constraints led approach is attached to a thought about how humans and why humans move that is that could seem nebulous because it's so complex and we have to look at it from so many different angles that allows bold snake oil salesmen to sneak right in and start
Yeah.
peddling their wares, because there's not many hard metrics or hard lines in what we're doing.
Right. So, are there people out there, like Andre? He trains out of Legion,
Andres, yep.
right? Doing a great job, right?
Oh, amazing.
Who are some other people that you think are doing a good job at that?
So I've worked with a lot of people, and so a few of them that I think are like have really put on the work hat and went to work. Were of course Josh Root. I always got to talk about my boy Josh Root. He's one of the first guys to start working with me. Josh Root was the best student I had in the original coaching thing that I did. He took it extremely seriously. Like we maintained a week to week phone call for almost 3 years. That we kept going. He does a fantastic job. He brings his students into my school, and they're incredible. Like he's teaching them all kinds of complex behaviors, and using the method, and he's doing great. He hasn't put out much content or anything. I think he's really focused on building a school, but he's doing a great job. Andres Bernovskis, as soon as I talked to him, and as soon as he got the material, he started working right away. He understands it relatively well. Like we've had a bunch of private conversations, and he's getting better and better each time. But the good thing about Andres is he got involved in application right away. So rather than worry about trying to be a person in the market or trying to sell something, he got right away trying to create opportunities for himself to practice this new way of doing things to try to better understand it first. And he really put on like the let me do it a little bit first to understand it shit before I become some type of influencer doing it. And
Right.
yeah, and there's a few others who are doing that too. But what separates them from everybody else is they're doing the work that you would need to become the thing that you say you want to become, which is a coach who can accurately and clearly use a constraints-led approach to change behavior.
Right. That's huge. I like that point. Is putting the work in, right? Because I know some people in the market, Jordan, right, that just hasn't really done the work, and it's unfortunate. Like I love Kabir, and the reality is that product is Kabir's, right? Like all the games are Kabir's, and I think if he would have branded it himself, it would have been a lot more authentic. But he
Yeah.
used Jordan kind of as a signal booster, and I hate that.
Yeah, the Sigma boosters are a little bit annoying too, because I mean, when you look at him, you know exactly what he is. He peddles wares. That's all he does. Whatever the trend is, he's going to attach to it. He's going to put it in your face as much as possible. He's a salesman. He's a marketer. That's what he does. I mean, he was going against this for quite a while, as you remember in the discords, and railing against it. But a sales and marketer that they look at that bottom line and like, oh, here's a trend. I want to make some money. Let's get on this trend as fast as I can and start working. Now, I'm not hating anybody trying to get their bag, but we're working with something that requires a little bit of effort before we start selling something we would hold as a solution. And the truth is the thing itself is part of the solution, not the way you organize it. Because the way you organize it's going to be specific. And so I think that's definitely a mistake for those guys to do that. And it's not really that it's not, it's really how it was put together. Like first, their stuff is just a list of games. Let's say game 1 to game 300. It has no coherence at all. It's just, here's a bunch of shit. Okay, fine, whatever. Maybe that inspires us to try something differently. The second thing is the marketing was plug and play CLA. That is literally antithetical to the process. Adding more confusion and more bullshit to the market. It's like, come on, man. Don't turn CLA into a collection of techniques by making it a collection of games. And one more thing, and I'll shut my mouth. I'm kind of on my soapbox today. Goddamn. Kabir, I've worked with him a long time, and Kabir didn't start using CLA until about 3 years ago. He was actually on Scott's podcast where he was about 6 months into using CLA, and this was in 2022, 2023. When we first had our phone call, he was very intelligent, very curious, ready to go, ready to pull the trigger on things. But there was a lot he didn't understand either at first, and he's been working kind of hard with his school and his program. To try to understand. I've had lots of conversations with Kabir, and he seemed like he was doing a great job and understood what was going on. Even in one of his podcasts, before, he said CLA is not just a collection of games, and he was going off on people who were just making a collection of games. So it's sadly ironic that that's what he ended up selling. But I wanted to talk to Kabir about it, but he was supposed to call me, but he never did, and I guess he got busy.
Yeah. I think it's good intentions from Kabir because, like, when I opened my gym up, I worked with him quite a bit on the business aspect of it, right? Because I've been teaching and coaching jiu-jitsu for a long time, but I really wanted to. He has a very successful kids program, very
Oh,
successful
sure.
school, and I wanted to kind of give myself a good platform to build off of from there, right? I ended up bringing him down for a seminar and like coaching seminar as well, and runs really good practice, right?
Yeah,
I'd already been doing CLA for a good chunk of time when he came down, so it was very interesting for him to sit and watch my class, and then for me to watch his seminar and be like, "Oh man, we're close. That's really cool."
sure,
Right?
sure.
Um, yeah, I can't say anything negative about Kabir. It's just unfortunate that that's the route that ended up going because
Yeah, yeah.
I think he could have done better, but it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, he helped me out when I first met him. We were talking, having conversations. I did his podcast and stuff and whatnot, and he actually gave me some advice on how to do my coaching thing because I was a little bit insecure on how to value myself in the coaching space. And he
Mm-hmm.
basically gave me the rundown, like these are the numbers you charge. This is sort of the ballpark you want to work within. Just have the courage, man. Go out there and make your bag. And so he was the little push that I needed to start selling my services because again, I just wasn't comfortable with it yet. Because even though I'd been at it for 10 years, I still felt like there was so much more I had to understand before I started putting a dollar sign behind my efforts. But he helped out with that.
Yeah, like I get that feeling in terms of like monetization, but even just like reaching out and talking to people. Because like when I first discovered you and your content, right? It was from podcasts of people perking you. And then I looked into it and I just basically reverse engineered your games, ran it, and then just worked. Right. So 10 classes a week and work and work and work and work. And we didn't speak until I went down to Minneapolis and did your seminar.
Yeah,
We never spoke. And then all of a sudden I'm like kind of tiptoeing a little bit. And I was like, oh no, shit, this is super cool. Like I don't remember who said it, but someone said like, hey, like eventually you have to step out because like monsters are made in the dark. So if you're just always working on and you're not like sending it out there and checking it, you might be building a monster and it might just be way off,
for
right?
sure. Yeah, I mean
It's
that's why I put all my stuff out there. It's very transparent. So when I first did this, my goal was to do a lot of free work. So the whole idea was like change the culture by exposing the culture to what you're doing and be honest and open about it. Nothing. Don't hide anything. Show your work, right? And so that was the goal. So for 3, 4, 5 years, that's all I did. Just look, check it out, check it out, check it out, check it out, because I wanted people to see and attempt to copy to see if they were getting similar results to what I was getting. That's really my initial what I was trying to do. And I thought that it would be a cool way to give our gym a little bit of notoriety to bring people here to train. So the whole reason I even jumped out there had nothing to do with trying to be a guy. It was just test your work, see if others attach to it, and if it works for them. And you know, here we are.
that's one thing that really resonated with me too is show your work part, right? Like the whole reason I ended up jumping on Instagram and showing this stuff is this partisan grappling page. Basically like you're just putting it out there, like, hey, put your stuff out there, practice, like right? And then I heard you say like show your work and like those two things jive. I'm gonna see how long I can do this just posting consistently every day. Right. And
Sure.
then just kind of took off from there, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's still
Um
something we're working on too, because we're not. I mean, we posted quite a bit of content early, but a lot of it was like lifestyle content because we were showing what the guys were doing out in competition, and we wanted to show the results of all the training we've been doing over the last few years. But now we're trying to figure out a way to, sort of keep it going and try to help steer the monetization of CLA into a direction that's more in line with what CLA actually is,
Right.
rather than how it's being interpreted to be.
Right. Have you ever, because I know you had done kind of a mentorship program with people before in terms of like helping them out coach, right? Have
Sure.
you ever considered on doing an instructional in that fashion?
Yeah, I have. It's something that I want to do. We've filmed a whole bunch of iterations of it. I think the biggest problem with trying to film something is the the nature. It's continuous in nature, so there really are no hard rules that you could easily put down. I mean, we could use some principles and concepts to sort of guide us around as coaches, but a lot of that I've already given out for free. But people don't like those answers. They want how many days, how intense, what times, how many games, but that all changes. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a little bit hard, man, because it's a moving object. You know,
Right.
you can't, it's not just sitting still for you to analyze the fuck out of it. You know what I mean? And that's sort of the problem. We're dealing with a complex system and we can't analyze a complex system. We have to engage with it. And so if we just analyze it, it'll move and it'll change and our analysis will be shit. So anyway, it's tough.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Um, yeah, I think there'd be a lot of value there because that's what I attempted to do, right? But it's kind of stupid of a guy selling a product, be like, "Hey, have you considered doing it better than me?" But like, I think that would be like one of the best products a person could put out there, especially you, right? Because like you've done this for so long, you had um, people under you, like you've taught so many people how to do this, and yeah,
Sure.
like you're not going to be able to lift every rock and see what's under everything, right? Like you said, it's a moving target. But even if you can just lay the baseline and just be very heavy on like, hey, you need time on the mat as a coach to learn. So things are gonna pop up. Um, things you're never gonna even suspect are gonna pop up, right? But just
Yeah.
having the baseline and the framework for it. I think there would be tremendous value.
Yeah, I mean, and the funny thing is that when I first gave out my framework, I thought like, that's it, Greg. Like you gave them all the secret. They're all going to start doing it now. But even now, they still don't understand it. And I'm like, it's the simplest thing. It's just you do it. Like if you just center all your task focuses, your tasks specifically around the framework, you're going to get somewhere that looks like competent grappling. Because that's exactly what I did. I literally shared with other people what I used personally to get the things that I got. And then I talked on 30 different podcasts on how I did it. I did YouTube videos. I went to B Team. I went here. I went there. I put all my seminars for free on the fucking internet. I don't know, man. Like I try to show I try to show the process in progress so people could see.
Yeah,
But it's like it's just not satisfying enough because I think the truth is it's a daily thing. It's not really, not really parsable. I don't think I can't take it apart any more than I did.
yeah.
But you're right. It would be very beneficial if we could put something a little more usable together.
And I guess it's all the whole leading a horse to water adage, right? Like you can put it all out there, whether people are actually going to do the work or not.
Sure.
Not up to us, right?
Yeah, yeah. And then, yeah. So, yeah, I don't know what to do. Like I had, I trained up a guy for about a year at my gym, and unfortunately, for personality reasons, he was asked to leave. And even spending a year with me, constantly trying to get this guy to understand. And no matter how many different people he talks to, no matter who he talks to when he flies around the world, no matter what literature review he does, this guy just doesn't seem to understand what's going on. So I guess there are some people that just might never. Um, I mean, just might not be able to do it. It might not be for them.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's the whole. Some people are just lazy. Sometimes I don't know. I don't want to go as far as to say like this is too complex to understand. Maybe for some people it is, but like I think it's just the amount of work and effort required to get good at it. It's a lot. But I mean, if you're coaching anyway, why
Well,
wouldn't
and
you do it? You're doing it.
I think that's the thing, right? I think that if you're actively coaching, and that's the piece that, like, I don't know how to convince people of. It's just like it's like training for grappling, right? Like DeAndre's on these mats every single day, problem solving, problem solving, problem solving. Then he's competing and seeing what happens out there. We're coming back and we're problem solving, we're problem solving. It's his lifestyle. He's consumed by it. And this is why you see these great changes in him over the last 5 years. And it's the same thing with coaching. Like I'm teaching constantly. Not only am I teaching my students and changing my room constantly, but I'm talking to people about coaching constantly. So that's the work. The work isn't the 200 hours you put into your YouTube video to share a bunch of information that's already out there anyway. It's like most people think learning is reading a book, taking the most important parts, putting it on a YouTube video and saying, look, I put this into the prompt, I read it so cleanly into the camera, Chat GPT helped me out, and here you go. That's not understanding. That's nothing. That's just reforming information that's already out there. And a lot of people are confused and they're engaging more in that than they are in the practice of coaching.
Yeah. That's kind of the one big thing that I'm seeing across the board is some of the people who are really struggling with it. It's a question I like to ask is how many times a week are you teaching? Right? Because it's like, oh, I teach 2 classes a week. Yeah, that's going to take a while, bro. That's going to take a while. Like how many classes a week do you teach typically?
Right now, 1, 2, 3 a day. I was 18, 19. I was 21, but I stopped teaching on Sundays.
Right.
Um,
That's
so
volume. That's what you need, right?
yeah, and
Like,
wow, I've been teaching at that volume since 2014. And before 2014, I was teaching at Lloyd's. And then before Lloyd's, I was teaching at Mike's. And at Mike's, I was teaching almost 30 classes a week when I was a blue belt. So I've been at this thing for quite a while now. Speaking to rooms, being thrown into the fire, teaching 5 to 7 year olds for 10 years, and like all these different ways I've gone about trying to figure this thing out. So, but it's all lost in the volume. The learning is all lost in that volume somewhere.
I think that's one of the biggest things because, like, I've shared a lot of ideas. I've helped people try and use CLA, and I really have to like think about how many times a week are they training, and I have to like remember that in the back of my mind too. It's no different than when we're coaching our students, and if you have a guy who only comes in once or twice a week, it's like, hey, it's going to take a long time for you to become
Yeah.
competent and skillful, as opposed to someone who's grinding it out constantly in the gym. Like, yeah, you can see the results pretty quickly.
Sure.
Right? No different. It's all skill building at the end of the day, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was
Something that
oh, sorry, go ahead.
something the old school guys got right is the mat time, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, we know there's a sort of a relationship with, time in effort and result of effort there. So spending time solving a problem is what you need to find the solution. Whether it takes you 6 months or 10 years, it's going to be dependent on a lot of other factors that are probably outside of your control. But the only thing you can control is your frequency. Like you got to get in there and you got to mess with it. And that's the piece that most of these popularizers aren't understanding because they've never actually done any work, which is kind of funny. They're great at making YouTube videos and editing. Great.
Mhm.
I can't do that to save my fucking life, but I could coach them under the table, half beaten and drunk. You know what I mean? It's like I watch the stuff they're putting out, and I'm like, after 3 years, that's what you fucking came up with? Holy shit! But it's because they haven't done the work. They just they're confused. They're very confused.
Right. I want to loop back to kids classes
Oh
because
yeah,
Standards has a kids program again,
yeah, yeah.
right? So I wanted to, what brought that on?
So actually, the boys. So I really want to get Sid and Noah started at developing their life as coaches. Um, so that's how I started, and I have a platform by which I can help two other young men out. So I was like, well, why don't I do that, right? So I'm giving them 100% of the profits, minus a little fee for running the kids program. So um, well, right now I'm giving them 100% of the profits because they have to get started. So whatever they make is yours, man. Go,
Yeah.
because I need them to start their life. They're young men and they want to travel, they want to compete, but they need funds to do it. And having them work outside the gym makes the training protocol rather difficult. So if I can put everything into one place, I can get the best that I can from them while also helping them build a future as coaches. So that's what spurred that on. I'm not involved. I taught kids for 10 years and I'm finished teaching kids. I love teaching kids, but I'm done with it.
Okay. I love that there's a kids program again. Uh, Was part of the reason, was it entirely just to give them coaching opportunities, or was part of the reason of basically, hey, you have your kids, eventually they grow up and they're adult, and that's a nice funnel into your next cool account?
I don't know if I have enough but no. I mean, I would love for that to happen, but the time scale for that is pretty significant. Taking a kid from early childhood all the way to adulthood, that's tough. And the thing is I actually don't believe in developing kids early. So for me, a 5 to 7 year old program should be running around, pushing and pulling, grabbing each other's legs, holding each other down, playing sumo game, playing follow the leader, playing tag. Like 2 days a week, they should move around, have some fun. And then
Right.
the older kids, like 8 to 12, um, start to see who loves grappling, try to get them like kind of in love with the behavior, maybe get them doing some stuff just like the little kids, but really try to tap into an interest. And then I think once, 13, 14 years old, I think that's when kids should start making a decision about which sport they want to try to pursue.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's early ages, a lot of like body awareness and getting along with other kids and stuff like that, right? But a lot of coaches, and this isn't even just in the jiu-jitsu scene, in basketball, softball, all this stuff. They just expect, no, this is the only sport you're going to play. You're going to be an expert in this sport. It's like, no, there's fucking the kids up doing that though. Like they should play every sport out there
Sure.
because like those athletes who have played every single sport out there when they develop are so much better.
Yeah. I think every coach before they attempt to coach should study causality before they open their fucking mouth, because everyone thinks something that isn't true about the nature of who is going to get good at what. And there's, especially in sport anyway, there's a mountain of research now that basically suggests that there's no early start advantage, that it's a fucking lie. So, but if you get them early, you can make more money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how many gyms? It's like that is their money maker. They throw a blue belt in there blind, teach this program, hands off. Right?
Yeah.
It's crazy to me because like I teach all the classes here. Kiana helped me. She actually teaches Thursdays. I'm trying to get her teaching on her own a little bit more to develop her a little bit too as well, right? And then I have assistants. And it's like I think of all the classes that I would potentially want to have someone else teach, kids' classes aren't on that list. Like I want to be in there.
Yeah.
'Cause, yeah.
Well, when I first started teaching kids, I started watching kids' TV shows because I had a little niece. Her name was Lauren, and she was obsessed with Barney. I remember at the time. And I don't know how much older am I than her. I don't know. I think I'm like 7 years older than her, or something like that. I think she was 7 when I was born. Anyway, so watching her grow up, she was like transfixed by these TV shows. She'd watch them over and over and over again, like almost on repeat. She'd sing along with it and loved it. So I was kind of curious, like, what is that pull, right? And so I learned quite a bit about the effect that those kids shows had on kids and why they were effective. And the one that drew my attention the most was Blue's Clues. I've told the story a whole bunch in my seminars, and yeah, I've told this. But anyway, I modeled my kids program after Blue's Clues, and that's how I first started to try to understand how kids operate. You know what I mean? And it was the easiest thing. You could put me in a room full of 40, 50 kids, and I'd have them like locked in within a few minutes. Um, but it's very performative and it takes a lot of energy.
Right. This is one of the questions I wanted to ask you because you did mention this in that seminar, and I thought it was so interesting. Can you explain the whole Blues Clues thing and how that looks in a class?
Sure. So the first thing, or there's two things that I think I took away quite a bit from Blue's Clues. And the first one is the idea of expectation. A lot of the behavioral problems you see for kids where they fuck off and they run around and don't do what they're told is not because they lack discipline and don't want to listen. It's because they're confused. They don't know why they're there. They don't know what is expected of them. And so they have no attachment to that expectation. So therefore, they're going to go on their whims. They're going to be kids, right? They're going to run around and explore the world. So first, if you want to have a good kids program, like a good kids TV show, you have to build an expectation. And the way that Blue's Clues did that is by having repeating episodes. So I don't know how many times the episode repeated, but it was like 3 or 4 times a week. So it was the same episode a few days in a week. And then at the end of the week, there was a new episode. And so the expectation is kind of what draws kids in. So they see the novel thing for the first time. It's exciting. and then they see it again and see it's the same thing, it makes them feel attached to it. Like they get an attachment. They know what to expect. It draws their attention. Then when it comes on again, they can sing along. They can remember what's going to happen. That gives them, I guess, a little bit of certainty about the nature of the world. So it just draws them in completely. But if you do that too much, it gets boring. It's not stimulating. So that novelty at the end of the week shakes it up a bit, and they get excited again, and they want to go through that whole process of being expectant, memorizing the lines, going along with it, and then waiting for that eventual change. And so that's how I did my kids' classes. So we taught kids 4 days a week, 3 days a week. The classes were identical. I even tried to make the speeches I gave and everything identical. The games we played, nothing changed. And then that last day, it was all new. Like we'd start off with a game and we'd play another game, and it was just crazy. And kids loved it. So that was the first thing. The second thing was the language we use. And these are 5 to 7s, by the way. These are the young kids. And so what's interesting about Blue's Clues is everything's exactly what it is. Blue is called blue, pale is called pale, couch is called couch. The guy's name is Steve, or whatever. So it's all the same stuff. And so kids attach to that. There's no meaning. Pale is pale because it's a pale. Couch is couch because it's a couch. Blue is blue because he's blue. And so we did that with everything we had the kids do. So we played the single leg game. We played the two-leg game. We played the hold each other down game. We played the push each other outside the ring game. We kept it very easy and simple for kids to attach to and hear. And lastly, we took away the non-disciplinary or the disciplinary non-essentials. Like I never made kids line up. I let them huddle into a group to listen because they seem to function better that way. Having separating them from each other makes them more interested in each other. So if you have them all stand in a line on a wall, they don't want to listen to you. They're looking sideways at each other, trying to see what Jim's doing because he saw Jim pick his nose earlier and Jill farted on him and he wants to fart back on Jill. And so then their attention is everywhere else but the little group. But if you stick them together and you allow them to interact with each other while they're interacting with you, you get a little bit more attention. And then and it's the last thing, and I'll shut up. I'm going on and on. I'm sorry.
Love it.
The last thing I did was sometimes unnecessary chaos will erupt and you cannot control it. So the way that we did is we had like a disciplinary reset point that we made a game. So I would put dots all over the floor. And so when kids would come in, they would just stand on their dots. And that was when I needed you to hold still. That's what we did. We stood on any dot you could find, stand on it. At first, I made the mistake of having multicolored dots, which is not good because kids will fight over the colors. I like red, but Jim's on red. I want to be on red. They all are going to be red. You know what I mean? So anyway, what we would do is we turn that reset into a game. So that's where they stand when I want them to be quiet. So I'd have them go into chaos. And then when I would say attention, they'd go, yes, sir, and run to the dot. And they had to hold still for a few seconds. And then we go back to what we were doing. So anytime that I had chaos in a game, two kids start fighting, I go, attention, go to your dots. And they all run. We get a moment of calm. We bring them back together. We start again. So those are what I use pretty strongly to develop my early kids program.
Yeah, I love it. I really wanted to talk about kids programs, and Blue's Clues is on the list because I think it shows another side of you, right? Because I think a lot of people are like, "Oh, Greg, you're so abrasive, blah blah blah," and it's like, nah, dude. Like, look at how much experience he has in teaching these kids, and like, you have to have a certain demeanor and like softness to be able to deal with kids, especially for that long and to understand them that well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, the
yeah,
thing is
it's
like
another.
I grew up with I had my mom is one of 8. So we had like, your typical massive redneck family, right? Like fucking 13 cousins, like it's just crazy. Like my childhood was nuts, man. And so I was used to being surrounded by kids. You know what I mean? So I'm very comfortable. Kids don't bother me. Like when they're screaming and running around, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't have no effect. So I'm very calm around children. So like they don't feel my energy, right? Like negative anyway. And the other thing is I become very performative with children. So I'm not like I am here. Like with kids, I'm like, okay, guys, you guys want to work out today? Let's get into a group. And everything's exaggerated and excited. And I make
Yeah,
faces and I get exaggerated and ridiculous. Kids seem to respond to that. So I
yeah.
guess I have this other side, right?
Um, I want to touch, it's still kind of in the realm of the kids class, but it's with the idea of developing coaches, right? It's something that really interests me, and I know you have a lot of experience in it. And now having 2 of your students running a program, what did that process look like? Did you work with them individually much before the kids class became a thing? would you consider having them, start a program with less experience? Like, what does that look like to you?
Yeah, so I treat it like anything else. We got to get them out there working right away with no instruction. So just a model of what we want to happen, and then we let them go. So with Noah, for example, I gave him the noon class when he first started teaching. Like I think it's a blue belt, like 2 years in. He wanted a job. I was like, okay, I'll pay you X amount of money to teach these classes and clean the mat. So you do that, and we'll do that. And so what I would do at first is just watch him and see how he organized the class. And I would let a week go by, and I'd give him my feedback. And then I would watch again and see if he took my feedback, how it changed. And I would just monitor him over time until I felt like he was taking control of his classes. And sometimes I'd make just a small suggestion, be like, your games are too complex. These people are not understanding you. Tomorrow, when you do your explanation, I want you to look out at the room, see how many people are paying attention. And then we'd have a conversation. What did you think? And he would give me his feedback. Oh, they weren't paying attention or picking their toes right away. I was like, how can we change that? And then have him go out there again. We did that for quite a while. Now he's competent. You know what I mean? I don't really need to run behind him anymore, so to speak.
Right.
With the kids' classes right now, we just started. So I already watched one of their kids' classes and it was horrific. Like, I was like, oh, you guys are terrible. So I talked to, because Noah just had knee surgery last week. And so I was like, when you get back from this knee surgery thing, we're gonna have a meeting about the kids' class. We're gonna fix this.
Mhm.
So I'm just gonna, give him guidance, let him fuck up, and then
Yeah.
just move it around and move the needle around as I need to.
Yeah. That's an important thing though. Like, I think everyone's going to have their first horrific kids class, and it's a good thing. It's a learning curve. Like, because I taught kind of the 7+ age group for example. And then when I opened my own place, I said I'm going to try and do like 5-year-olds, all that kind of stuff. And the same thing. First class I had with them, I was like, what the fuck? Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I just hit Kabir up. I'm like, dog, what did I do wrong? And he's like, oh, you're treating them like the older group where they have
Mhm.
attention spans.
That's right.
You can get your older groups to do 5 minutes of work because you've built them up to that. But these young kids, 30 seconds, bro. Like, you have to build them up. So that's the first 3 weeks is just building in those hard resets, right? So
Sure.
like you're getting them on dot, right?
Yep.
Having them sit like black belts or the water breaks, lots of water breaks,
Oh
just
yeah.
constantly building in those habits. And then, yeah, like I would set the clock so it would count up. So then the first kid that I would see break attention wise, that's when the break was, and I could keep track of how the attention span would go through the weeks, right?
Yep. Yep.
But I think those failures of classes are sometimes the best teachers for us.
They are the teachers. The
Yeah.
failure needs to be part of a complex system. If we don't have failures in complex systems, we have no reorganization. It's too stable. So if it's too stable, there's no change. So failure is, we want to encourage it because it's also that line too, because at the failure point tells us something about the nature of how the system is organizing. And if we want progression or improvement or change, then we need to mark those points. And like, so it's the opposite. We want the fuck up. But yeah, so yeah.
Um, I know we talked a lot about the blues clues and whatnot, but would you have any, this is a very generic question, but would you have any tips for the people out there who are teaching kids classes?
One, so the first thing I always tell people is develop a reset point. That has been a lifesaver for me because the bigger your classes get, you need to be able to turn them off and get them settled without like disciplining them, so to speak. The discipline thing doesn't work. You just have to reorganize what you want them to do because they're going to break loose. That's the nature of that age group. That's what they're supposed to be like. The discipline is, can you get them back? Can you get them playing along? Can you get them cooperating? Can you get them engaging? That's what we should worry about. So that reset point really, really helps throughout that process. Um, Knowing when to use it, because like you do when you note that first trickle to start to happen, where the attention starts going away, giving them something novel to do really helps out with that. One task, take a break. Next task, take a break. Next task, take a break. Having sensitivity for those breaks and when to reset them is critical. Um, Keeping the classes short. No 5 to 7 year old kid should be doing anything longer than 30 minutes. Like 30 minutes and they go home. You're gonna get 20 out of them, maybe. Maybe. So yeah, man, classes are way too long for the young kids anyway. Older kids, we do 45. So those are the things that come to mind right away.
Right. I like it. Kind of in the same realm, but a little different because you've been coaching for a very long time. But you've also been a gym owner for a very long time. What advice would you give the gym owners out there in terms of like running a gym business wise?
Have somebody else do it. Like if you want to be a coach, you're going to need a lot of mental resources to do that. Coaching is emotionally exhausting. And I'm not trying to be dramatic here. If you really take your job seriously, you're going to be smoked. And if you have people that are really trying to push their limits, and you're not just being an instructor showing moves to whoever shows up that day, and you really involve yourself in the lives of your students as it relates to changing them, it's a full-time job. Like I don't get to go home when they go home. When I go home, I'm worried about the five guys I'm working with and what they need tomorrow, and it's constant, and it's so distracting that it's very hard for me to do other things because like I have five people trying to accomplish something and they're all different and each one of them needs different things, and there's only one of me. I'm not like a college program where I have six coaches to help out, so that's like draining of my resources. So my business gets put to the side, and fuck business. I got to worry about these guys. So if you want things to run smoothly, delegate. You know what I mean? And I'm terrible at that. So I'm giving advice, guys, that I don't follow, by the way. So, but
Yeah.
better people than me tell me that I do shit at that. So
Mhm.
since I do shit at that, I'm sure you're doing shit at that. So you should probably fucking fix it.
No, that is, yeah, that's very good advice because it's the coach role and like admin should be separate things, but a lot of times we're constrained by the business itself, right? Like, well, how big is the community? How much money we're bringing in? Can we afford to have employees? All that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, um, thankfully, my wife is good with the accounting and all that, so I don't have to worry about that. I can dig more into the coaching side a lot more, so that's nice, right? But
Well, my safety feature for bridging that gap is that I'm a lost beatnik born in the wrong generation. Like I couldn't care less what I was eating or drinking, where I was sleeping. So, like when I first started this whole project, I didn't care about my living situation. Like all I
right.
cared about was my work. So I was able to create something very sustainable very early because I wasn't trying to build a thing that required much more than showing up. Like for example, with the first 6 months or actually I subleased at first to get students. And once I reached 21 students, I was able to rent the space that I have now, or at least half of it anyway. And
Mhm.
for six months to a year almost of that first year, I didn't have a sign outside. I didn't have lights. You had no idea you were walking to some dank parking lot. When you walked into my building, there was like a huge structure in the middle of it that you had to walk around to find the little tiny 300 square feet of purple mat that was in the back. Like I'm surprised people came in and signed up. Like I
Yeah.
built a shitty like Squarespace or Wix website following YouTube. Like, what I was doing, bro. It was crazy. So I've been making the same joke quite a while. It's like my whole path has been falling down the stairs and just landing on my feet.
Yeah, I feel that too. Like so many people just want, they think everything is planned out and strategic and like they kind of just figure shit out as you go, bro. Like,
Yo, if any one of these people thought that and lived with me, they would be stressed out to the max. I mean, there's a couple habits that I keep. Like, I'm a very clean person, so my situation is very organized. Nothing's out of its place. I'm not messy. I'm very efficient. So that helps out with the rest of the chaos. So,
yeah.
the chaos of my coaching, the chaos of my gym, that's probably all the chaos of my life. So, everywhere else, I'm very calm. So, but yeah,
Mhm.
it's a shit show all the time in here, man. It's going crazy.
Um, Another question relating to people and owning a gym. Um, was there anything that you like specifically did to help drive the culture you wanted? Or is that kind of just another thing of falling down the stairs and
No, I mean, I was pretty intentional about what I wanted, right? So, you know, I started trying to adopt a constraint thought approach framework in 2014 when I first read the dynamics of skill acquisition. I think or motor control and performance, or one of those two. Yeah, motor control first, then dynamics of skill acquisition. And I didn't know what I was doing. And so, but the thing is, the one thing that I did do right away is I started doing almost all live work. I only had 10 minutes in the beginning that I would use for like static stuff, and I had this idea that the only thing you had to get people to drill were things that had like necessary movements in them, like the swing of a leg or the ducking of a body or the movement from left to right. And so my gym started doing live work almost right away. And so that was something I wanted people to get aware of. Like, if we can't learn how to grapple unless we grapple. So I was really focused on developing that first. And then I encouraged competition. I was like, oh, it's not necessary at all, and you're not forced to. But if you'd like to, and here's your path, let's go do this. And I traveled with everybody all the time. And yeah, so long story short, without babbling, I created the culture I wanted by uh, reinforcing the behaviors that I wanted to see in my room.
Right. Um, one thing that I've noticed, and this will be a good shout out for your guy here, is you and a lot of your athletes works. I don't know his name, unfortunately, but the check engine light fella.
Oh, right, yeah, Rob.
Right. So was that something that you kind of just stumbled upon, or is this something that you're like, whenever someone's serious, like, hey, I want you to work with that because he's immensely helpful.
No, man. Actually, so he lives in Virginia Beach, and he trained at the gym that DeAndre trained at. It's a Coastal BJJ. He was one of their students, and he's always
Mm-hmm.
been a strength conditioning coach. He works with Navy SEALs and a lot of military guys down there in Virginia, and he did breath work and all this other stuff. So anyway, he was doing DeAndre's stuff, and DeAndre was telling him about all the training he was doing, and Rob was like, "I'm so interested in that. Can you connect us?" We got on the phone. We had a phone call. It was like, we talked for like 2 hours first time we met. And then he's been calling me probably once or twice a week since that day. It's kind of crazy. We've become friends. It's less of a business relationship and more of a friendship now. But like, for example, when DeAndre won West Coast Trials, I didn't have anybody else to call but him because he's like my only friend. So I fucking called the dude up and I'm like, brother, fuck, man. Um, but no, it was an accident. We started talking and communicating a couple years back, and we just became friends.
Nice. How I'm assuming a fair amount of your athletes are running this program.
Yes. So Noah and DeAndre have been on his program for quite a while now. Um,
Nice.
he's very picky about who he takes because he fully invests in his athlete. So he does all the research. He creates he plug and plays all the video they need to watch to understand the movement patterns. And he updates every 6 to 8 weeks depending on the athlete's needs. He tracks them, so it takes a lot of work from him. So we
Gotcha.
have some general stuff we have the other guys doing, but yeah, Alex, and Noah are under his programming, and myself included. I'm also one of his clients.
Okay. Cool. Do you have anything else in the gym, basically, as like almost like value adds, where like, I, as an example, there's the Bulletproof for Jiu-Jitsu app, right?
Mhm.
Um, they have an academy plan. So I have the academy plan, so everyone in my gym gets free membership to that, right? So have mobility on there, weightlifting programs, a tracker, all that kind of stuff, right? And I just put the investment into that. So it's like, okay, strength and conditioning, mobility, less downtime for people. If they want to take this seriously, that's another tool to take that seriously. Some gyms will have weights built in, right? So they have squat racks and assault bikes and all that kind of stuff. Like, you have other infrastructure in your gym to help your athlete.
Yeah, that's what we have. So we have a power rack, we have rings, we have pull-up bar, we have stall bar, we have heavy bags, we have sandbags, we have kettlebells, we have dumbbells, we have barbells. Fucking, we got everything, man.
Yeah.
Like we're fully equipped. Our weightlifting, we have a GHD. Like our weightlifting area is like, I don't know, 800 square feet or so.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's nice, man. We get a lot of stuff in there.
And then you can kind of just leave, because obviously you're not a strength and conditioning coach. Do you have recommendations for programs they follow? Or do you just kind of leave that to their own devices? It's their life.
Well, a little bit of both. I mean, it really depends on the person asking me. So if someone comes to me and says, "I've never done it before, I want to do it," I just tell them whatever interests you, start doing it. I don't give a fuck whether it's a powerlifting program, whether it's a bodyweight calisthenic program. Get a guy that's interests you, that looks cool, that looks fun. Do it, because as a beginner, everything works. Like Simmons says, everything works until it doesn't. So you're eventually gonna have to switch no matter what you pick. But if we're first starting to get exposure to strength training or progressive overload or whatever, get people started, and and just see where they go. And then as their needs become more specific, shifting their attention somewhere that could help fulfill those needs would be what we do.
Let's brought another question up. You had a striking program in your school. You still
We used to, we do not.
used to. Okay.
We are solely no-gi, and then just with the kids now twice a week. So traditionally I had everything. I was at gym, right? I had kids, I had gi, I had no gi, I had striking, I had the whole 9 yards. But then after COVID, I was like, man, I don't want to do all this extra shit. Like I'm not interested because I can't control it too. I was actually kind of a control freak about the program. Like my striking coach
Mhm.
was, which is just a friend of mine, this guy named Jake. Now, he did a good job with the guys, but he wanted to do his own thing, and he was great. He stayed with me for fucking 10 years, just running his little striking program. But we never developed it. You know what I mean? When I had mixed martial artists, he was their coach, and he did great work with my guys. And but yeah, just I didn't want anything else other than jujitsu.
That makes sense. I like it. I made that decision at some point too, where I stopped teaching striking completely, and I went full in on jiu-jitsu. Still have the gi in there because I have a very small population, and some of them really like the gi, right? So at 4,000 people, we'll do both, right? Um, but I did want to bring striking in eventually again, but I knew that I wanted a striking program that was going to be CLA. So I eventually did find a guy where it's like, hey, I know you have zero experience in this, but this is an avenue I want you to go down, explore, right? And he's been doing it. It's cool. My question was going to be, what did that striking program look like? Was it through CLA? Did you just
No.
leave him to do his own thing?
I left him to do his own thing. It just wasn't an interest of mine. I didn't want to develop it as a sole thing. At first, it was a support for the mixed martial artists that were at my gym. I had two pro fighters and a bunch of people who just wanted to do mixed martial arts, and so that's what I did at first. I did a lot of work with them, and then once both of them retired, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
So yeah, no, I really wanted to hone in on how. The thing is we all, when you open a business, you feel the pressure of having to sustain it. You're like, what do I need to keep this thing running? Which is fair. And that's what I did at first. But once I reached a point where I could make it go in any direction I wanted to go in, I figured, fuck it. Why not design this thing how I want it? There's a gym for everybody. But where is the gym for the no-gi guys who love jujitsu and they want to do jujitsu? And I was like, man, I want to be that gym. So,
Do you have any other coaching tips that aren't related to CLA? This could be for Apple programs.
well, here's the funny thing. So, if CLA is the method, and ecological dynamics is the framework we're using to develop that method, then the base of all of that is this idea of complexity. So the boundary conditions that make this whole human thing happen. I think that a lot of coaches only focus on methods. They don't focus on the nature of the thing that they're trying to manipulate. And so I think understanding athlete needs, understanding the emotional needs, understanding culture, understanding in gym interactions, understanding how you affect your students, how your students affect you. These are all aspects of coaching that nobody talks about that I think play massive roles in the experience. The emotional experience of the coach, the emotional experience of the athletes, the cultural glue that keeps the program together and moving in this direction as we bump into change and perturbation and disturbances and all this other stuff. And so, learn about humans and how they function in groups. I think is a advice I would give.
Right. So as coaches, a lot of times we're looking at task constraints.
We're looking at what?
Task constraints, right? So a lot of people are just looking at the task and how we can constrain that, right? But we have other things in play, like the individual. You just spoke on that, right? So that individual, their personality, what they're actually capable of, right? And then you
Sure.
also have the environment, right? Um, what are you doing in your room? Let's start with the individual themselves, right? Because you have all kinds of different personalities, and they're all going to be different. Do you have any examples of how you might coach someone differently based on their personality,
Hell yeah.
right? Like you have a fella in your gym who really likes, what was it, Aoki locks or something, and that's all he does.
Yeah,
Do you have a couple of
I do.
athletes of examples that you could give of that?
So yeah, I have a few different ones. So I'll give you one from each little realm that popped up. So first, I've had two athletes. that were particularly timid. Like the mental stress of learning, of competing seems to supersede everything else. So even if they were performing well in the room, even if they were seeming to do things, the second that that pressure knob got turned up, they'd fall apart. So having weekly talks with them, like about their emotions and how they were feeling, getting them to kind of reveal to me like what their triggers were for when they felt bad or when they felt good, helped me speak to them in a way that I felt like could alleviate some of those feelings of pressure and fear. Also recommending them reading material because both those athletes were very educated and very intelligent, and so they tend to be more analytical in their approach to things. So trying to scratch that itch for them a little bit by giving them books and stuff to read, because when you take a very analytical person who's very studious and it's a little bit rigid and you throw them into a complex environment where people are like implicitly acting and throwing each other, that could be a little overwhelming for them. So I've had two athletes that I've worked with, and both were female, just randomly, and both have made huge strides working with them in that way. One was a purple belt, was a purple nine, and she started with me. She actually is the one who introduced me to Rob Gray's podcast, by the way. She was my blue and my purple belt, and then a blue belt young lady that I'm working with now, uh, Gavin, like Dee's brother. I let Gavin do whatever the fuck Gavin wants. Like, Gavin is an animal trapped in human, and like, just go be Gavin, right? And so
Yeah.
with him, I just try to have the conversation that I need to have when he needs it. Like, I don't talk to Gavin that much, but I've over a few years, Gavin's had some stresses, right? And I've seen it on his face because Gavin's like a kind of a sensitive guy. So I go over to him and just have a small conversation, and that has seemed to really like change his spirits and refocus him. Or I've just suggested small things like, oh, you really like getting behind elbows. Why don't you try to get behind elbows everywhere that you see it? But I don't really do much with him. He's like a press play and he goes. Who else came to mind? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of examples, but those are just a few that pop up.
Yeah, that's it. I was chewing on that question for a bit because I thought it's really interesting to see how, because again, like you said, learning how people operate and then trying to help them when they have issues, or just kind of changing the way that you interact with them to better suit what they need, right?
Sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, one thing I learned is that novelty often is the stimuli that's needed to create change, whether it's direct or not. So, for example, like let's say one of my students is a heavy note taker, and it's all they do is take notes, and they're worried about their techniques and their sequences or whatever, and they're struggling. And I'm like, hey, I don't want you to take notes for the next month. Just I want you to train. You can't ask questions, no notes. Just go train. You know what I mean? They don't think like that. They don't act like that. So that novelty has been helpful for people who are who overthink. You know, I've dealt with a few athletes like that, and that's typically the protocol I give. I just make them do the thing they've never done before, and sometimes that is enough to make the change.
That's interesting. I like that. I'm, I'm going to tell you a story just because it's curious and I'd love to hear your opinion on it.
Okay.
I had this fella stuff, bigger guy, athletic, right? And he would hurt himself in free class, right? No matter how many times I'm like, hey, bro, like, we're doing an 8-minute round. We need to pace ourselves better. He's just hyper competitive to the point where like he's going to stub his toe going and just weird freak things, right? And what stopped it is actually my wife. She's a little bit cheeky. On the whiteboard, she put, it has been blank days since so and so has hurt themselves,
Yeah.
right? But then all of a sudden she made it a competition against himself, right? Kind of called him out a little bit, but made a competition about himself. Like how many times, how many days, how many classes can you go without hurting yourself?
Yeah.
Perfect sense.
You know, I like things like that because some people are not aware of it. And so
Mhm.
putting something out there that's for everyone to see can sometimes make us aware of the things that we refuse to pay attention to for one reason or another. Maybe we don't refuse, maybe we just don't know. And I think that if that tactic worked, then it was a good tactic. It shifted his attention and maybe slowed him down a bit or whatever the effect it has had. I mean, a lot of times, like I think we use task constraints specifically because they're sort of the most obvious thing, right? Like, what can I do differently now or next time? That's pretty easy. but understanding to write on the whiteboard or to give the person the right book or to tell somebody who takes notes not to take notes, that can be counterintuitive. That's not directly obvious. Because
And
the way that we traditionally think about the tasks is that it's like a 1-to-1 ratio. Like I do this task enough, I get these outcomes. And that's not really how it is. You know what I mean? The idea that I think a lot of people are missing in this is that we only constrain to afford. We constrain to create an opportunity. We don't constrain to get specific outcomes. And why that's important is you're writing on the whiteboard and constraining his attention to be more aware of himself. You didn't know that was going to work. You had no idea what outcome that was going to create. You know what I mean? But if it affected him and caught his attention, it was constraining to him and it gave him an opportunity to see things differently. And so, yeah, I think again, those are harder to pick up on than the tasks.
yeah, I never would have thought of that one, and she did it, and like that could have went so many different ways. It could have been, hey, fuck you guys, what the hell is this? It could have just, you know,
Well, here's
would have.
one. So check this out. I called Cal Jones the other day to talk to him,
Mhm.
and I wanted to ask him about his opinion on the strength of boundary conditions to reinforce what was constraining what. So you hear a lot of people say, okay, I want you to do these moves. This one's worth 5 points. This one is worth 1 point. And I called Cal up and I was like, Cal, I think that's a really bad constraint because it's not really a constraint. Like 5, 1 have no actual value. So why 5 or 1 would mean anything are constrained by other things within the system. So we should open those basically, we should find where those boundary conditions lie. So for example, if you are a regular person who works all day and comes in and do some training and your instructor says, you know, this is worth 5, this is worth 1, there's nothing constraining you to make you go in those directions because those numbers have no value. They don't actually affect the system. But what could 5 and 1 mean to somebody who's competitive, right? I want to compete at a tournament this weekend. I want to score big points. That might be more appealing to him. That might draw his attention. Well, maybe that kid comes from a wrestling background whose friends used to videotape each other and give each other high fives every time they hit a 5 point move. So man, now it's heavily constrained because man, they were in a culture where that was important. You know what I mean? And so I think a lot of times coaches think they're constraining the environment, but they're not. They're not aware of these boundary conditions and how those boundary conditions create pressure that make the constraints what they are and facilitate their interaction with a little bit more salience than they otherwise would.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because I've seen people use the different points for that, and that's I've never really liked it. Tried using it, but I find when I use it, it's more like here's some options, right? I like this one the most, right? So it's almost like, hey, if you can get here, it's a little bit harder. Coach is probably going to notice you're going to get your props, and that tends to motivate people a little bit more. You know,
Yeah, I
it's
mean, it could, and you know, Cal's reasoning was not that he agreed with what I say. He's like, I completely agree. He's like, but and again, you have to look when you're watching Cal's program. You're watching a program that's been at play for 10 years, so they could have a culture there that has been built around
yeah,
trying hard things. So when you say 5 points versus 1 point to them, because of the culture that's present in that gym, that could actually be a constraint to manipulate their behavior, or excuse me, attract their behavior or guide their behavior.
right. Yeah, more of a cultural thing through the program.
Yeah, because constraints are always there, but you know, it's not just the tasks we do; it's who we are, it's how we think, it's what we believe to be true about ourselves, the nature of the world, and blah 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 blah. And so, it's
Right,
understanding how they're interacting, which is actually how we decide to choose them. If we don't understand how they're interacting, our choices are arbitrary. Might as well just flip a coin and say anything that comes to your mind.
right. Um, is there anything that you do in your room where you manipulate the environment? Like I
No.
know before you contended with slippery mats, and that was just kind of a feature of the environment, right? But I don't see that very often. It's hard to do because your partner's kind of the environment in a way. You know what I mean?
Your partner is the environment.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I wouldn't say that I intentionally show up to practice and I say, I'm going to manipulate the mats or the air or the temperature or anything of those type of environmental factors.
Yeah.
But I might, you know, put a small guy with a bigger guy, right?
Mm.
Or something like this. with no task orientation. It's just whatever we're doing, you're doing it today with a big guy. That's an example. But I don't know. Other than that, partner selection, partner switching, the
Yeah.
rate of partner switching, 3 versus 1. You know, like every time you win, a new guy comes in. Like
Mhm.
these are some ways we manipulate the environment. But time.
Yeah.
So yeah, time, partner selection. Yeah.
Here's a weird question. Because you've been doing CLA longer than, have there been like patterns or things that you have noticed in your students, as opposed to like my friend, like when on a more short-term scale, when we use CLA, we start to see people be more adaptable, right? So that might be a more short-term thing we see. You doing it for so long, have there been any like patterns or things that you have noticed in the long term
Yeah.
that we might have seen yet?
Well, so my students who have developed skills, they can't drill. Like it's funny, like if they want to try a move, when they're like discussing things and like sitting around like bullshitting, and they try to
Yeah.
show something, they'll be like, "No, give me pressure, like push forward." Like they can find it through resistance, but they can't find it when someone's just holding still. And so that's just funny. It's like watching them try to convey what they're experiencing to each other by modeling behavior. It's funny. They have to try to recreate it in the environment. So what they'll do is like they'll be, all right, we're just pushing a little bit, and move your body here and give me some pressure, and then so that's funny to me. I think it's kind of interesting to see that. My gym specifically, I'm pretty quiet. Like when I'm just walking around the world or when I'm living. So my gym is very quiet. Everybody
Mm.
says that. They'll come in and be like, "Fucking," it's like you can hear a pin drop in here, you know. And it's like that when we're training too. If we're not putting on music, it's just fucking silent.
Yeah.
And also, people aren't very social. So now it's getting much better. And I actually don't know what the catalyst was, but you'd come into a room, there are 40 people sitting there in silence. I swear to you, weird as shit. Like everybody commented on it. So anyway, that's just the
Um,
nature of my gym. So I don't know like what the hell. It's not to do with CLA, but I was like, that's kind of odd.
mhm.
The other thing is like wanting to work rather than discuss. This is something I see to be ubiquitous around in the room, no matter what they are. They prefer to do the work than talk about the work. So we'll get visitors that come in that want to. They'll start talking, and the guy, like, yeah, after practice, let's continue working, and then we can discuss this later. Um, so those are some of the oddball things that stick out to me. I guess I don't know.
Interesting.
I mean, you already mentioned the adaptation to novelty. That you'll see pretty much anywhere that you use CLA.
Right.
You'll see that across the board.
Right. Yeah, I was just curious because short term we see things change, right? But long term, I'm like, you did a video, I think it was with Josh Beam, and you were helping him design games, and you were like, you give my guys a task, they are trained to go based on tasks. They're going to do exactly what you tell them, right? It's an interesting feature because I think a lot of people, question from my buddy Joey Goretzky. Um, he was asking like if you had a strategy for people who come from more traditional gyms and they just have a hard time engaging with tasks. They just want to cram techniques in there because we see on people who have trained CLA long enough, they're task focused. Like they're orientated towards the task, and it's so easy to do it. And then at the opposite end of the spectrum is you have these people just trying to cram the technique, right? So it's just that was an interesting thing.
Well, I mean, the room
Um,
sort of takes care of that. So anytime we get a new person in, we try to get them as quickly in the environment as we can and get them working how we work. And the thing is that technique cramming doesn't work because of the nature of our practice. So there's no room for it. Like
right.
a guy will come in to visit and we'll be playing a game where the only job is to stay outside your partner's feet for as long as you can. There's no technique there. So it's not really, it just is hard when you first come to the room because there again, there's not a space for it. I mean, unless we're doing like a situational round where we're just sparring from a position, then you might see it a little bit. But yeah, but I let that work itself out.
Are you working on? I asked you this last time when we met in person. Is there anything that you're working on in your room that's new? Right. Like last time we talked a little bit about meta stability, and then we talked about phase transitions.
Yeah. So
Anything
largely,
new?
I'm still there in that space, trying to find as much of it as I can, because that's kind of the thing that I think everyone who's coming into this are still treating it as situational sparring, and they think they need to slice things up more than they do.
Right.
So trying to keep more of the space in the game while still having clear and achievable objectives is what I'm trying to work on. So again, how much can I let happen while still having a direct focus towards something we want our students to experience?
And do you find you're doing that mostly with basically playing, I guess, just combining the slices, right? So maybe you're starting in a standing situation where you're working towards, I don't know, some kind of hip pin, and then you're starting in the hip pin, but then you can work backwards. Like, how do you find you're organizing that?
Yeah, so it's basically like giving a condition that has to be met before another condition before another condition. So it's like maybe search this space until we reach this outcome, and then we're in this new space, we're now searching it for this outcome and letting them exist. But you got to be careful because sometimes you'll make it too big, you know what I mean? I mean, here's a simple example. We can give something simple. We could just guard passing with beginners. We could say bottom guy's belly up, your job is to make foot and hand connection, make top player hit their butt, something really easy. Top player standing in front of legs, your job is to clear feet, step in between and outside knees. Once you step in between or outside knees, your job is to search for chest to back contact and connect to the shoulders. You can't connect to your partner's hips, you can only connect to the shoulders. So what you're doing is, again, that's just an easy example. I'm taking them from the feet all the way to the shoulders. So you're exploring that whole space. And another example would be like starting them standing and starting in a single leg. Starting at the end of an ankle. Your job is to put your partner on their hips or hands. Once you put them on their hips or hands, we look to access the hips. Once you access their hips, then you can access the shoulders. So we're having them explore the whole space. So as the student hits the floor, they now have to go from where they are when they hit the floor from one point to another point. And so just making the games larger.
Yeah. I want you, and I know you've done this before, so I apologize, but I want you to explain the idea of physical certainty, because
Okay.
I think it would help a lot of people with some of the questions of reinventing the wheel and stuff that come up.
Okay. So physical certainty is my language that I use to describe conditions that have known effects or known outcomes. So it's close to the idea of invariance, but physical certainty is just one of the original wording I used before I knew what invariants were. So it was my like 2014 attempt to describe something that always happens. I think I now must change it to physical probability because people don't like certainty because nothing's certain, right? But either way, it's this idea that if I fulfill this set of conditions or this condition, that it will have this effect at some high rate. So if I can get under an elbow, for example, I can extend it and make it touch the head. We are physically certain of that. So we've seen thousands of years of examples of this. At the end of the lever of the elbow, that portion of the arm is more manipulatable towards an outcome that condition is required to manipulate. So we try to find these precursor conditions that create the effects we're looking for, and that interaction we call physical certainty, or that relationship we call physical certainty. Like if I keep your feet off of me, you can't push me with your feet. I mean, it's silly, but like to try to see things more clearly like that helps guide our intention. Like, why would I want to take any one action over another? Why would I want to fulfill this condition versus this condition? And it's all based on the effect we're looking for. And those effects are based on what the point of the game is, which is immobilization, strangulation, and breaking. So we want to be physically certain or physically probable, whatever, that if we fulfill these conditions, we should be able to find these effects or create these effects as we continue to engage.
Beautiful. Here's another one. Uh, Gray has been talking about having people practice things incorrect,
Yeah,
right? So maybe hitting a ball in the wrong spot when they're playing baseball. Have you played with that in your room, and what does that look
yeah,
like? Yeah.
absolutely. So the way I describe it to people who experience it for the first time or want to use it for the first time, an entanglement is just things we do with our legs and arms to our partner's legs. Like that's it. So when we're thinking about training entanglements, typically we think about them as being tactically optimal. Like, I need this alignment, I need this outcome, I need this grip. But instead, we'll put our students in entanglements and we'll have them do things that entanglements are required, like take an ankle from one side of the body to the other. So we might play a game where you're in an entanglement and your only job is to move your partner's one ankle from one armpit to the other armpit as many times as you can before you lose control of the leg. So
Mm.
there there is no tactical reason to do that because moving the foot just a million different ways doesn't mean anything. Another thing that we've done is when we're entangled, you keep the foot from touching anything. So don't let your partner's foot touch you or the ground. You know what I mean? That's just me manipulating an ankle. Like, it seems nonsensical, but that's all that we're doing. I've said this before, we are humans doing human things to other humans. And so as long as we're within that space, manipulating parts of the body with enough action fidelity and the right information source, we're good to go.
Like that. I
Well,
didn't connect those dots previously because I've seen the games that you've been playing in terms of switching ankle from side to side on the legs, and even just like don't let the foot touch the floor, keep the foot in the sky, right? But I didn't correlate that with like, oh, we're practicing incorrectly. So, yeah, you could start in a position where there's a heel hook right there. Wouldn't that be the correct option? Why would you go back and connect those dots?
sure, and that's the idea. So when someone says correct, that doesn't mean anything in a training
What is
environment.
that? Yeah.
What is correct is the thing that's going to change the behavior relative to the intended change. So if we want to
Yeah.
know, we have to know what, first of all, what problem we're facing and what change we want to make through the practice intervention. And then the practice intervention should be stimulating enough that it creates the possibility for change to occur. And so that's what practice is. So when you have Rob Gray as guys hitting balls at the ground up high, he's having people swing a bat in variable ways at balls in different directions, right? So we're using novelty and we're using variability to add stimuli to a system to change it. And in doing so, we're giving them more opportunities to interact with ball and bat, which basically, you could think of it, enhances their movement repertoire, so to speak. They're moving in a greater range and learning how to control those movements with the information present. It's training. So,
Cool. Yeah, that's an interesting topic. I talked to some others and we played with it in the environment, but yeah, like I said, I didn't correlate you were doing with that. That's a different lens to look at it like that. I think a lot of coaches with the implementation of CLA, they're kind of just afraid to fuck up. Like they're afraid of making mistakes, looking foolish, right? And
sure,
I think everyone I've ever talked to is like, hey, you got to do that as part of the process. Like that failure is the biggest teacher.
sure.
Do you have, now this has probably been long, but do you have any examples of times where you've fucked up, right? Like
Every single
a
day.
practice that you've tried to implement something and it's
Dude,
like, oh man, this fucking went sideways.
here, I'm going to say it. Who cares what people think of me saying it? I'm the only coach in this space who's not copying anybody else. Therefore, I fucked up everything because I created the framework, I created the language, I created the idea of invariance, and I took the language from ecological dynamics and I made it relevant for jujitsu, like that everyone's copying and using. That all was 1,000 fuck ups behind it. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't just wake up like out of my bed as some revelation because I read Rob Gray's book. Like, I understand everything. Like, you know, it's like the whole.
Helio, Helio didn't give you the secrets of CLA. Is that what you're
I
saying?
mean, I asked him. He told me I had to, eat the correct diet first, and I was like, "Fuck, dude." Um, but no, I
Do
mean,
you,
yeah.
what I'm trying to ask is, do you have any specific examples of fuck ups that you've had?
I mean, I could give you many. I mean, like even when I first started, like um,
Yeah.
trying to get moves to come out was the fuck up that I spent the most time dealing with. I did not understand conceptually the idea of emergence. I didn't. So once I realized what that was, I was like, oh fuck. Like that's not how this works. Like these things that they talk about when they talk about degeneracy, when they talk about emergence, they talk about complexity, novelty, variation. These are deep concepts that sometimes we think we understand them and we don't. So a lot of my application process was trying to create things to do based on these concepts. And a lot of times I missed the forest because the trees were in the way. And again, forcing moves to come out was the biggest mistake I made for the longest time. The other one was using invariant games for everyone. Like generally, that's fine, but like DeAndre needs crazier levels of stimuli that these just playing these invariant games will not do. They will not change him at all. So sometimes I would stick on a routine too long and not understand that there wasn't enough stimuli happening that needed to change something and make it more novel. Um, let's see. I mean, it's just it's hard to say because I feel like the entirety of the learning process was a giant fuck up. Like I don't think as fuck up as like these things that I corrected and never made a mistake again. Like I feel like failure is always happening to me and I'm always fucking up. But it's like as long as you can make as long as you can resolve the fuck up, it never actually was one. And since I'm now understanding these concepts more deeply and more fluidly, they don't seem as obvious anymore. Like even Pritt Mickelson was funny. He was like, dude, I need you to slip up because I can't stand watching you do things. And I was like, bro, the whole time I'm fucking up inside my mind, man. I'm a mess inside my head.
Yeah. Yeah, the only reason I asked that is because I think it would be relatable for people, right? Because I think a lot of people, that's probably their biggest fear in dipping their toes in this stuff is they're terrified of failure. But it's like we've all done it. We're all going to continue to do it. And that's just a normal thing, right?
If anyone has on, and I don't know how to say this, but I'm just gonna say it. If anyone has a hard time relating to me, it's because they think they're sweet, and I don't. Like I don't think I'm great. Like I'm constantly working and judging myself and taking criticism, and I don't hide from it. You know what I mean? Because I feel like failure and criticism and all the stuff that people consider negative is the stuff of learning. So I try to embrace that. And I try to get as much of that as I can. So there's a reason I do a million podcasts. It's not because I want to be the dude, the face of anything. It's because every time I get to talk to you guys, I get to learn my weaknesses in presenting ideas and information, and then I can go back and fix it. So this is me fucking up right now because I'm probably going to listen to this when you put it out and hate every word I said and lose sleep for the next 3 days. And I've been doing this for 5 years now, and it's fucking terrible. You
Yeah.
know, this is fucking up.
Yeah, I feel it, dude. Some of the framing and questions that I have, and you're like, man, I am stupid. But that's just, again, like, we're just kind of figuring things out as we go, right? So I'm just trying to, yeah, make it more relatable for people and show them, hey, it's okay. Like, fucking, you, like you said, you built the entire framework to this system that a lot of us are using now, right? Like, it was nothing but fuck ups until you found, hey, this is working the best for me right now. And next month it might be different. Who knows?
You know, and then really sharing it with you guys was really helpful for me because I got to see if anyone could replicate my work. And fortunately, a lot of the coaches were able to. So it was like, oh my God, it like gave me like kind of a little bit of relief because, you know, I was very nervous. Like before I even put out my stupid little, 30-second framework, I ran it by Rob Gray and I was like, what do you think? He's like, I think it's fantastic. And I was like, cool. I talked to, Josh Peacock a bunch about it. And do I understand what I'm talking about? I even had to call Cal and be like, am I using the right words? Like, what the fuck? So, I did my work. I did my due diligence. I talked to the right people. I got corrected by the right people. I fucked up in front of people. Like, I mean, what more can you do, right? A small thing.
um,
I'm going to babble one more second. I should make this point. My worst coaching student that I ever had spent a year with me, and he's still currently trying to make himself popular as a coach. And the thing that held him back, and that will continue to hold him back, if he ever listens to this, is he is afraid of failure. He's the most insecure person I've ever met. And that was the big reason why I had such a hard time affecting him, is because he was more concerned with being right than he was understanding the subject matter. And that was so hard to deal with because you can't get through to guys like that because they're never talking to you or interacting with you to change. They're trying to get validation for what they already think. And that is frustrating. So, again, if you want to avoid going down that road, just don't be afraid to fail and show everyone your failure,
when you had your seminar in Minneapolis, John Mitzko was there and he watched your seminar, right?
Yes, I
And I
did.
think you had mentioned that you had a conversation with him afterwards.
Yes.
Um, did he have feedback for you?
Ugh. Unfortunately, it was all positive, which fucking I hated. No, I mean Sean's been great. Sean really he likes my focus on intentionality. He always praises me for that. He's like bringing intention into the training practice and understanding exactly why you're doing what you're doing. I think is a strength of yours. He also encouraged me to embrace my personality, embrace my abrasiveness, embrace who I am, and just let that lead the way because it got me here. You know, his saying is the first guy through the door gets bloody, and that process of beating down doors and getting bloody requires a certain personality type, and I seem to have one to withstand a lot of a lot of damage. So, um, he just talked to me about that kind of stuff. Encouraging me to keep showing my work, encouraging me to make mistakes in front of people, just like the advice I'm giving you guys now. Um, and just little stuff like that. And it's really helpful from a man like him who worked in a professional setting where the stakes are incredibly high and going from the greatest winning season of his coaching life to then changing the stuff and using CLA and jumping into this uncertain water. So, no, that was his feedback for me. So,
Cool. It is a personal curiosity of mine. Um, yeah, like his presentation was phenomenal as well. Like so much value in there just to see things that are happening in our sphere of grappling happened the same in every other sport. Right?
oh, yeah. Even
Very,
the bullshit's the same too. It's
yeah.
crazy. Like sitting around like round tables talking to these guys and being like, why is this happening? Why is it happening? What are people are saying? They're just as equally as frustrated. The same red tape, the same traditionalism. It's the same everywhere.
I have a couple questions from some of my friends. Um, this is from Joey. You've been on a podcast with Joey before, Joey Gretzky. Uh,
Guy from Canada.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. He's out of Edmonton now. He owns his own gym. That's a
Oh,
great
sweet.
class. Yeah. Um, in the context of grappling, do you think there's more value in adding task constraints with the same partner or partner changes with the same task goals and the skill affects that, right?
I, so I don't think there's a better. I think it's the effect it has. So when changing tasks with a single partner, I think helps people that aren't used to a lot of variation. So each time you touch a different person, you get a whole different person, and each person responds very differently to the way things are played. So I think that stimuli could be a little bit strong for somebody who's new, because think about what it means to be new. You're very unsure about what you're doing. You're very unsure emotionally what's going on between you and the other person. We're getting physical with each other. We're moving each other around. There's a lot at play there for a new player. So I think letting people change tasks with the same person help alleviate some of that emotional stress that might be going on between the two players and some of that chaos that happens when new players switch partners amongst new players. But again, I don't know which is better. It's just historically, I've seen that early on, staying with the same partner is hugely beneficial for reasons outside of just the task.
Yeah, much more comfortable for the individual so they can kind of build um, almost like a relationship and a trust with someone, right? That you can have them dabble outside.
Yeah, and it's also cool is like sometimes you even might want to let your beginners go with the same person every day. Like if they find a friend they like interacting with, that could be the catalyst that keeps them coming in. So that could be good. It also can increase their confidence. So as they learn about a partner, they can use that partner to have a goal. They can be like, oh man, I'm gonna beat Bill today. Bill arm locked me 37 times, so I'm gonna fucking arm lock him twice today. And so it kind of makes a little game out of it. It's fun. You get to beat up your friend and you know track your progress, so to speak. So I think there's a lot of
Mhm.
reasons that you might want to stay with the partner early, but there's also lots of reasons why you might not want to do that. But I think that the importance of choosing one or the other is relative to the needs of the individual.
So we already spoke about people coming from other gyms. Basically, let them be; they'll figure it out. And if they don't, there are gyms for everyone, right? Go
Yep.
back to the old traditional school. Um, one of his other questions were: do you think there's an optimal periodicity for specific tasks or even positions? Right. So there's a wide variety of task focuses and positions we can do, but how often should we be touching on those things?
Hmm.
I
That's
think
a
this
great.
might be too much in the weeds.
No, 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 no. I want to give a general answer to this one because I think it's actually a great question, right? So, um, what I've noticed is there are things that are common amongst all positions that we want to do often. So, for example, let's say we're working on developing guards, right? we need to be very, very good at keeping our feet posted and hooked or attached to our partner. So playing lots of games, you're constantly doing that is very important, whether it's highly specific to just those things or you're doing things with them. The effects of these basic connections, like putting someone on their hips or hands, is something we do all the time. Um, so the invariants, so to speak. So set
Mhm.
the task focus that are centered around invariants, we probably do. It's redundant as fuck. We're doing it all the time. We add variation to that. So rather than change that up so much, we just add a bunch of variation to it. Um, so it's not so much how long do you stay on a task, it's when does performing that task become an effective intervention for change and when is it not? Uh, and so I think, again, as long as you send, if you want to, if you're not sure, repeat something until you see an outcome and then change. Repeat something until you see consistent outcome and then change. But try to center everything around some type of consistency. And for me, that consistency is invariance, right? So.
I got a couple other ones from my buddy Justin. He owns a gym out in Invermere. He has heard a couple discussions about repositioning CLA as ALA, so affordance-led approach. What do you think about that?
Well, I don't know. I can think about it right now and give you a quick answer, I guess. Um, I don't know. So if we constrain to afford, we can't really manipulate the affordances because we're not really sure what they are. But
Okay.
a constraint, something that's present in an environment that we are aware of and we're aware of its interaction, I think it's easier to approach. So I don't know who wants to call it an affordance led. I mean, that's it's cool. I mean, let's discuss why the language change is necessary, but I don't know if that gets at it because, like Gibson said, affordances are subjective, objective, but also neither. They are stuff out there, stuff in here, but also neither. So it's like affordances is I think themselves are emergent. They come and go. They appear and deteriorate at rates we don't really understand. So it would be hard to manipulate an affordance, I think, or at least clearly. But who knows?
Yeah, that's a tough question because I don't really have the context behind it as well. Uh,
Yeah, again, I'm just shooting at the mouth and speculating. I would have to
yeah,
look into that conversation because I don't know who's having that conversation and why they're having it. I think if we looked at who was having it and why they were having it, I think we'd be able to answer
makes
that a
more
little
sense.
better.
Yeah. Uh, his other question was, what affordances, what characteristics of affordances do you think jiu-jitsu coaches should pay more attention to?
I don't know if I like that question. I don't know. What do they mean? I don't know what they mean. Like, what do you mean? Like, what affordances do we pay attention to? I mean, it's not. That's. I think it's missing the idea. I mean, so the thing is what Gibson was getting at with affordances are specifying information. These are moments for opportunity. Is something reachable, graspable, pressable, pushable, and not even just the action itself, but the timing of that action. How hard is it pushable? How hard is it pullable? Like that's an affordance. So it's those opportunities, but those opportunities are also linked to certain time scales and certain um, you know directions of force and things like this. So again, I don't know if that this question is very aligned with what an affordance is.
Well, yeah, it's even like someone's capacity for action is going to change in affordance. Their height is going to change in affordance, right? Like
Sure.
it's hard to, yeah, isolate that. We can't really isolate it, right?
Yeah, because think about what's interesting
I
about
think
coach,
it's
right?
probably.
Oh, sorry.
Mhm.
So I might be able to see if a limb is reachable or twistable or bendable or whatnot. But what I can't see, for example, is how bendable, when, where. I can't see that. Like I can only see like in my imagined view if I were there, whatever that is, right? So
Mhm.
is it more important the aesthetic feature that lets me know that there's an opportunity? But what about the kinesthetic feature that lets me know there's an opportunity that I can't really see with my eyes, but I can only feel, right? So the information sources we pick up are not only visual, you know.
Um, I think that is my list of questions. So that's cool. We got through all that. Do you have a little bit more time, or are you like needing to be
Uh,
somewhere?
I actually have to be somewhere in about 15 minutes. I'm meeting up with my old mentor. She's driving down. She's a lawyer, used to work here. I actually worked for her on the weekends when I was training full time. And that's how I was able to get through living on someone's floor and feed myself. And so she's coming back into town and we were meeting up for lunch.
Okay. You have time for one more question then?
Please, yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So in the I guess nature of putting ourselves out there, learning from mistakes, you've seen a lot of my content, right?
Yeah.
What am I fucking on?
Honestly, I watch your stuff, and there's only two things that I think about. I swear to God, there's only two, and I'm glad you asked because they're right at the tip. I see you every day, so I know what they are. One is make your language more direct. Like you sound like you're kind of guessing. Like it's okay to guess and have doubt, but be clear. What do you want your students to do and say it? You know, today we're going to start in front headlock. We're going to start with these grips, and our job is to keep our partner on their hands for as long as possible. I don't care how you do it. We're starting here. This is you can use your hands however you want, but keep them on their hands. You know, just direct, man. And I'm not trying to make you a replica of me, but directness and clarity really help focus.
Mm,
So, you know, students will take on your mood. You know what I mean? This is why you get like arrogant douchebags attracting arrogant douchebags. Like the mood is attractive. So the more
right.
confident and sure you present, you'll spark that in your students. I mean, as my opinion anyway. So, man, speak more directly. You know what I mean? Um, and I guess the other one's kind of tied into that. Like, yeah, it's like sometimes the tasks that I see are a little bit squishy, a little bit nebulous. Like they could be interpreted. Now that might
Mhm.
be that might not be a bug. That might be a feature. So I don't want to like tell you not to do that. Um, but I don't know when I'm looking at something online and something that draws me in, it would be the directness of what's being told, the clarity, and then yeah, exactly that. Like how strong are they suggesting it's something that should be done?
Right.
Because to me as a learner, that pulls me towards that bit of information. But it might not be the same for everybody. That's what I see.
No, that makes sense. I could work on the directness for sure.
Mhm.
And then yeah, I think it sometimes depends on like, yeah, do I want them specifically going to these tasks? Or sometimes I think I want more exploration, so
Okay.
I'm a little bit more soft with
If
them.
if you want exploration, design it into
Mhm.
the game. Like
Right.
a lot of people they'll think, oh, explore here. I mean, culturally, if you need to say that because you have a rigid room, that's fine. But exploration should be baked in. And so the way
Yeah.
we bake in exploration, for example, is setting large boundary conditions. Play within this space until you reach this outcome or these outcomes. You know what I mean? So widen the space, set the boundary condition a little bit wider, and let the space be that they could find the solution in a multitude of ways, not just one. And that in and of itself will trigger more explanation because you have to, you know. But again, that's easier said than done. Like that's just what I know from doing this. It's not like, you know,
Right.
telling you is gonna make any difference other than affecting your perspective a little bit.
Mhm. No, it's good for me to hear, right? That's why I put myself out there so people can pick my stuff apart, tell me if I'm doing poorly, so I can improve as a coach as well, right?
For sure.
Um, yeah. So thank you
You
for
know,
that.
and oh, you're welcome. And honestly, if you ever want my help, you can. I know we only spoke personally a few times, but you're more than welcome to reach out to me. I tell everyone this. Like, if you need some help, just reach out, man. Like, I, I really like to see other passionate coaches in the space put their stuff out there, really give people something to attach to. And I know you have like a little a module you're selling, which I think is fine because the way you organized it, it's really engaging. It's very like fluid. It's moving on. To me, I think that's a good service to sell because you're basically saying we're doing this together and it's updating. And to me, that's great. But also giving enough like free content so people can see exactly what you're doing. Anyway, when I see that, it makes me want to help. It makes me want to engage with you because I'm like, oh, this guy's doing work. You know what I mean? And you can always help somebody doing work.
Yeah, that's a quirk of mine is a very independent person, so I don't ask for help very easily.
Me either, bro. Me either.
Like, it's like, fuck, man. I did it for how long? and consumed all your content, but I send you a single fucking message. I was like, no, I can figure this out. I can figure this out. I can figure this out. And then talking to you was like, I probably could have figured it out faster if I just asked him
Yeah,
fucking
yeah,
questions.
maybe. But the truth is, man, the struggle is, I think, what allowed me to be me, whatever that means. And so I think that the fact that you constrained yourself to not interact with me, I think is great because, of course, I'm going to give you answers because I have all this coaching experience. But here's the cool thing: now you have you've identified a bunch of problems, things you're good at, things you're bad at. So now I think that'll speed your process along because you have all this context from which you can draw all these questions about, what you might need help with. So the struggle prepares you more for the conversation you'll have in the future.
Perfect. Thank you very much for this conversation.
Yeah,
I
man.
appreciate it. Is there anything that you want to plug for my very small podcast?
No, man. Follow your boy. He's out here doing good work. He's trying to be one of the coaches that's adopting this new method. It's not easy. It's very difficult. Support the coaches you're with. Support the coaches you're around. Join in this journey with him, and hopefully you'll all get better for it. But I got nothing to say. You guys know who I am. Greg Souders, Standard Jiu-Jitsu. Check my shit out.
Hell yeah. Go buy all of the instructionals.
Yeah. Yeah, waste your money on my $50 fucking, shit.
Awesome. Thank
So
you, Greg.
you're welcome, brother. I really appreciate the opportunity. And yeah, I'm gonna bounce. I'm gonna go to this lunch thing. But if seriously, if you need help, reach out.